now, Texas Congressman and Hillary Clinton supporter Joaquin Castro. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about the emails, that these WikiLeaks emails. And I know that surrogates, I've been talking to them today like you, and they say, oh, I'm not going to comment on these until I'm guaranteed that they're authentic. And the campaign, of course, is not doing that, but they're also not saying, hey, these are fake, which makes us think, of course, that these are real. And instead they're focusing on the fact that this was a result of a Russian hacking. So this is my question for you.
Right.
If Donald Trump's tax returns had come out through a hacking, I just have a really difficult time believing that those behind Hillary Clinton would say, oh, well, they're off limits because it came out of a Russian hacking. Shouldn't there be a response to the content here and not just the mode that they were acquired?
Well, the first thing is that Russia has been hacking democratic political institutions and now the Clinton campaign in an effort to throw the election to Donald Trump. And I think part of the challenge in authenticating these emails is that they've got so many of them. And so the campaign is basically saying, look, we're not going to spend all day, rather than going out and campaigning among the American people and trying to win this election, we're not going to spend every minute of the day trying to authenticate these emails.
But Congressman, if this email was fake, they would have said that. I mean, I'm not talking about all of these emails. And also, you would have a hard time convincing me that there aren't folks on the campaign who have gone over every single one of these emails. That would be political malpractice if they had not done that. If this email was fake, they would have said so.
I think they probably don't know all that's out there. I'm sorry?
Well, that's all on WikiLeaks. So they probably are going through, as we are, as every other institution is, going through these emails one by one and reading them. I mean, they know this is real. They know this email is real. And even looking at just these specific individual ones, they know if they're real or not. Why not talk about them and explain them?
Well, I think that they have addressed some of those emails. For example, at the debate, Secretary Clinton addressed the issue of the transcripts, for example. But I also think that with less than a month to go, they're going to spend most of their effort, in fact, hopefully all of their effort, in convincing the American people that Donald Trump is dangerous for America and that Hillary Clinton is better qualified to be president of the United States.
I know that the Trump campaign looks at this particular email we're talking about between a spokesman and the DOJ, and they're saying that this is collusion. I mean, I don't think that we can say this is collusion, but what it certainly indicates is business as usual. And you know, and I know, and people in Washington sort of go, okay, well, this is how things are done. But this is an election where the electorate is really ticked off about the way things are done in Washington. Wouldn't it be better if the campaign addressed that?
And I suspect at some point they will, but I had not heard of the email before. I heard it in the introduction to the piece from Jeff, and I would say that, you know, as was mentioned in that introduction, that was based on public information. A status hearing when you're going to court is not private information, that's public information. So from what I heard at least, it doesn't seem like there was any kind of collusion or special information or real tip-off that they got.
No, I mean, and that is a good point that you make, and that's one that's taken. But I think it's this sort of discussion, the idea that if you had a political campaign and then you had the DOJ, that maybe I think some people look at that and voters would be more comfortable if there's a firewall between these entities. I mean, do you understand how they could feel that way?
Certainly, no. I certainly look. I understand that the American people want to make sure that the Justice Department is treating everybody fairly, that the FBI looked into the case fairly, but you know, there's no evidence that there was anything that was foul about any of this. As you mentioned, that information was publicly available, so I don't see a big problem there. I think the bigger problem here is that Vladimir Putin and the Russian government are actively trying to influence our American election, and that Donald Trump is working with them, what seems like hand in hand. He today is even in all-out warfare with his own people, his own speaker, Paul Ryan, in the Republican Party. He's turned on just about all of them, turned on John McCain. This is somebody who clearly is a destructive force in American politics and would be harmful to the country, not only for Democrats because we disagree with its policies, but also quite clearly now for Republicans.
When you look today, and or recently, he read off from one of these emails an article that was written about Benghazi as if it were Sidney Blumenthal, longtime Hillary Clinton confidant, who is controversial, I will say, for sure. He read that off as if Sidney Blumenthal had written it. It actually came from Russian propaganda. When you see that, do you think that that is just him making a mistake? Or do you think that there's something more there? I mean, do you think that in a way he's doing that on purpose, that he's somehow in cahoots with what the Russians would want out there?
I suspect that either purposefully or negligently that he is aligning himself with Russian propaganda, that he is putting disinformation out there to sway the election, and that is extremely, extremely dangerous. Remember, this is a nation that we spent a generation on the brink of war with, and thankfully, over the last generation, over the last 25 years or so, we've been able to have a better relationship. Obviously, that relationship has gotten rockier in the last few years, but we've never seen somebody who could step into the Oval Office, be in cahoots this way with a man like Vladimir Putin, who is essentially an authoritarian, who has run his country in a way where LGBT folks get beaten up on the streets and nothing happens to them. Somebody who has engaged in misconduct, not only in the Ukraine, but also in other parts of Europe. And so this is a very scary thing that we're seeing from the Republican presidential candidate, Donald Trump.
So you said it was either purposefully or negligent, and then it seemed towards the end of your comment there that you think maybe it is purposeful. You think that he is trying to kind of work in tandem with Vladimir Putin?
Listen, the reason that I say that's quite possible is because there have been news reports about higher up people in his campaign. These are not low-level volunteers that Donald Trump doesn't know, but higher up people in his campaign who have gone to Russia and have had relationships with people in the Russian government who are close to Vladimir Putin. Now, of course, all of that needs to continue to be investigated. But after a while, when you have that many connections to the Russian government and to Vladimir Putin, and then you are essentially parroting their disinformation propaganda, then I think it's very fair to start to ask the serious question, are you working hand in hand with the Russian government?
All right, stay with me. We have much more to cover. I suspect that you were sort of prepared to definitely stay in the minority in the House in this election, but now there's questions about whether that could change. We're going to talk about that after a break. We'll be back with Congressman Joaquin Castro.
If you're searching other travel sites to find a better price, stop clicking around. The lowest prices on our hotels are always at Hilton.com. So pay less and get more, only at Hilton.com.
Afoot and lighthearted, I take to the open road. Healthy, free, the world before me, the long breath.